Trapped inside alien tech, he thought it was the end, until an outcast alien set him free. The mining moon groaned under a storm. Green light crawled over the sky like slow fire. Inside a steel chamber, a young human hung in a metal frame. His name was Kai Mercer, but the machine on his face did not care about names. It was a living quantum helm. It tasted memory. It drank thought. It mapped the stars with the stories it stole. Kai breathed in short, tight breaths. The helm pulsed. Tiny needles thrummed along his temples. Each thrum took a piece of him. A birthday. A smell of rain. A laugh he almost remembered. He pressed his fingers into the restraints as if he could hold the memories in place by force alone. If it keeps feeding, he whispered, I will forget I am human. Sirens coughed once and died. The lights dimmed. The room trembled as a distant blast shook the mining tunnels. Dust floated in the air, slow and weightless in the storm's static. Kai lifted his head as far as the brace allowed. Something was happening. The door rippled open with a harsh hiss. Smoke rolled over the floor like a gray tide. A silhouette stepped through, tall, precise, and calm. Not human. Her skin carried a faint silver-blue tone, like moonlight on water. She wore scarred field armor, patched and practical. A thin blade rode one hip. A coil gun rested steady in her hands. Her gaze took in the room with a soldier's speed. The frame, the helm, the cables. Then Kai. You want out? She asked. Her voice was quiet. Firm. Do not lie to me. I want out, Kai said. His voice cracked. He tried to smile. And a glass of water. For a breath, she almost smiled back. I am Lyra Varen, she said. Exiled. Not syndicate. Not your enemy. Unless you make me one. She crossed the room in 3 steps. Her movements were smooth, not rushed, like someone who had practiced staying alive. She set the coil gun on safe and pulled a slim tool from a pouch. The tool sang. The helm shivered. Pain shot through Kai's skull, bright, hot, alive, and then eased. Hold, Lyra said. If I push too hard, it will lock and burn your cortex. Let's not do that, Kai managed. She worked the tool along hidden seams. The helm loosened a fraction. Cool air touched the bridge of his nose. He sucked in a sharp breath, as if he had been underwater for years. The machine responded with a low, hungry hum. On the inside of his eyes, symbols flickered like stars. It is talking to you, Lyra said, hearing the change. It always talks, Kai said. But this is different. Lines and dots became corridors. Doors. Cameras. A moving thread of red. It is showing me a path. Lyra stilled. The helm only takes. Maybe it wants a better view, Kai said. Maybe it wants to move. Heavy boots echoed in the hall. Voices barked orders. The storm outside rattled the girders. Inside, the footsteps grew closer. Lyra cut the frame's power clamps with a snap. Metal arms jerked open. Kai dropped to his knees. His legs burned with pins and needles. He clung to the frame until the room stopped spinning. Can you walk? Lyra asked. Don't know, he said. But I can run. She slung his arm over her shoulder with easy strength. The coil gun came up in her other hand. They crossed the threshold into a narrow service passage. Pipes hissed. Panels rattled. The storm's green glow bled through hairline cracks like strange sunlight. Left, Kai said, trusting the ghost map behind his eyes. Then down. 2 levels. They moved. Lyra fired a quiet burst at a camera dome. Glass snowed. They passed a junction as 2 syndicate guards rushed by on the main spine. Lyra pressed Kai into the shadow of a coolant tower. They held their breath. The guards thundered past toward the blast zone. Why help me? Kai asked when they ran again. His voice was low, honest. Lyra did not look at him. Because my people forgot what we were, she said. Because your people still remember. Alarms flared up anew. The floor shook with a near hit. Dust rained like ash. The helm surged, hungry, and poured more data into Kai's mind. Door cycles, patrol loops, a brief window in a locking sequence. Cargo recycler ahead, he said. We can ride the chute to the lower bay. That is a death slide. It is also open for 8 seconds. Lyra waited in a heartbeat. 8 is enough. They reached a grated platform above a churning throat of black. Heat rose like breath from a furnace. Lyra ripped a brake lever. The feeder shutters yawned wide. 3, Kai said. 2. 1 jump. They dove. Air tore at them. Sparks chased them like furious stars. Lyra caught a maintenance rung at the last instant and twisted. Their bodies swung, smashing into a catwalk one level down. Pain flared through Kai's ribs. He laughed anyway, raw and surprised to still be alive. Next time, Lyra said, pulling him up, you warned me earlier. Next time I send a memo, he said. They stumbled through a final hatch into a cavern the size of a stadium, full of were carts and rusted cranes. The storm's light fell through broken skylights and green sheets. A squat tug skiff sat on a charging cradle, humming to itself like a sleeping animal. Can you fly? Lyra asked. Kai looked at the skiff, at the storm, at the tiny, trembling future that had just opened a crack. I can fly anything with thrusters, he said. From the far doors, syndicate helmets appeared. A dozen, then more. Coil rifles rose as one. Lyra met Kai's eyes. He met hers. No time for fear, only motion. They ran. The storm outside the mining moon had turned wild. Green lightning cracked across the sky, each flash splitting the clouds like open wounds. The air tasted of iron and static. Inside the hangar, alarms screamed as the skiff's engines coughed awake for the first time in years. Kai Mercer sat at the pilot's seat, fingers trembling above the cracked console. The quantum helm, still fused to half his face, hummed like a heart that wasn't his. Every pulse whispered coordinates, warnings, and strange static phrases he couldn't fully understand. Beside him, Lyra Varen strapped herself in, eyes sweeping the readouts. Half these systems are dead, she said. Half's enough if we don't plan to land gently, Kai replied. He slammed the ignition. The skiff lifted from its cradle with a groan. Dust and loose metal scattered in the blast. Outside, the hangar doors trembled as syndicate troopers pounded toward them. Lyra fired a burst from the hull turret, shattering the locking clamps. The doors exploded outward in a burst of flame and wind. The storm swallowed them whole. Lightning webbed across the cockpit glass, painting Lyra's face in flashes of emerald. The ship bucked violently. Altitude sensors are blind, she shouted over the noise. They're not blind, Kai said, his eyes glazed. They're rewriting. The helm's doing something. The air shimmered with strange light. For a heartbeat, Kai could see the storm, not as chaos, but as patterns of charged geometry. The helm mapped every current, every magnetic pulse, as if the weather itself had a rhythm. He angled the ship into a rising current. The skiff stopped fighting the storm and started riding it. Lyra stared, wide-eyed. How are you doing that? I'm not. The helm is. It's showing me the path. She gripped the seat. That's impossible. Kai smiled without humor. Everything's impossible until it's survival. A flash lit the clouds. A syndicate interceptor burst from the mist behind them, sleek and black, its engines cutting bright scars through the storm. Missiles spun into the sky. Kai rolled the skiff hard left. The blast wave struck them sideways. Metal screamed. Alarms flared red. Lyra's harness snapped. She slammed against the bulkhead but caught herself. Evasive maneuvers, she barked. Kind of busy evading existence. Kai shouted back. Another missile locked on. The helm flickered, and suddenly the world bent. For a split second, Kai saw the missile's guidance feed, its artificial thoughts screaming target locked. He whispered to the helm, change the target. The missile turned. It looped wide and smashed into the interceptor that launched it. Fire blossomed behind them. Lyra gaped. You hacked a weapon system mid-flight. He touched the helm lightly. It's learning. Or maybe I am. They dove beneath the storm shelf into open air. Below, the moon's surface stretched in fractured gold. Refineries, wrecks, slag rivers of molten metal. Lyra leaned over the console. Nearest escape route? Kai's eyes flickered. There's a canyon, north by 20 clicks. If we make it, the ion walls will mask our energy trail. The skiff roared over the surface, chased by distant flashes of syndicate searchlights. Why are they still after us? Lyra asked. They lost their tech. They could have let you die. Kai's voice turned bitter. Because the helm isn't theirs anymore. He looked at her, eyes burning faintly with alien code. It's bonded to me. And it's scared. Machines don't feel fear. This one does. Lightning rippled across the horizon, forming a bright arc. The helm's voice, soft and fractured, echoed through his head. Destination required, host direction. Kai blinked hard. It's asking me where to go. Lyra's jaw tightened. Then tell it somewhere safe. There's nowhere safe anymore, he said. So I'll tell it something better, Forward. The canyon loomed, a jagged scar leading into shadow. Kai plunged the skiff down, engines screaming as debris rained past. The storm above sealed itself shut, cutting off the green light. In the darkness, only the faint glow from Lyra's armor and the helm's pulsing veins illuminated the cockpit. They sat in silence for a moment. Only the hum of cooling metal filled the space. Lyra broke it first. Back there, when you said the helm was scared, how could you tell? Kai touched the cracked console, watching lines of alien code swim beneath his skin like living ink. Because it flinched when you shot at the guards. It felt what I felt. Lyra stared at him, uneasy. You're merging with it. Maybe, he said softly. But maybe it's merging with me. Outside, the canyon walls glowed faintly with mineral light, stretching toward the unknown horizon. The storm faded into distant rumble. For the first time in years, Kai breathed freely. The helm was still there, still whispering, still dangerous, but in that moment, it wasn't his prison. It was his compass. He leaned back, a faint grin crossing his face. Guess we're partners now. Lyra looked out into the dark, her expression unreadable. Partnerships like this, she said, usually end in fire. Kai flicked a switch, and the engines purred. Then we'd better burn bright. The skiff vanished into the canyon's shadows, chased by the fading echo of thunder. The canyon walls narrowed until the skiff scraped sparks from stone. Each turn opened into a new hollow of shadow and silence. The storm was far behind them now, only a green pulse on the horizon. Kai kept one hand on the flight stick and the other pressed against the quantum helm still clinging to his face. It was quiet, too quiet. Since they'd entered the canyon, its whispers had faded to static, as if the moon itself were muffling its voice. Lyra checked her pulse rifle, watching the sensors. No drones. No signals. Either we're safe, or we're being watched by something smarter. Kai smirked weakly. Great. I always wanted to be famous. They flew deeper, the light outside growing dim and gold. The canyon opened into a massive hollow, an old ship graveyard. Hulks of derelict transports and fighter wrecks floated in midair, caught in a faint magnetic field. Their hulls were marked with both human and alien symbols, side by side, burned by age and war. Lyra stood beside the cockpit window, staring. This isn't on any syndicate chart. These are ancient, pre-contact models. Kai's hand tightened on the controls. Then what are they doing here? Before she could answer, the helm pulsed. A soft hum ran through the cabin, not mechanical, but alive. The derelict ships began to light up one by one, like old ghosts waking from long sleep. Screens on the console flickered to life. Coordinates. Power levels. Heartbeats that weren't human. Lyra spun toward him. You're triggering something. I'm not doing anything. Kai shouted. The helm's light crawled brighter, bleeding through the cracks in its plating. For a moment, he felt dizzy, as if the whole canyon were breathing with him. Then a single phrase echoed in his mind, soft and metallic. Unit identified, compatible host detected. Lyra's eyes widened. Compatible with what? A low rumble filled the air. The largest wreck, an enormous syndicate battleship lying on its side, began to move. Rusted panels groaned, dust pouring off its hull. Its engines flickered, faint but alive. Kai swallowed hard. Lyra, tell me that thing isn't waking up because of me. She checked the readings. It's drawing power from you. The helm's linking you to its reactor. Then unplug me. Can't. The helm's deep-coded. If I try, it'll fry your brain. Outside, the massive ship's lights burned red. Metal screeched as it tore free from the canyon floor. A voice, ancient and layered, rolled through the air. Unit 01, Ghost Fleet Awakening. Directive, locate Command Core. Lyra grabbed Kai by the shoulder. We need to move. Now. He hit the thrusters, but the skiff didn't respond. The controls vibrated under his hands as the helm overrode the system. The ship turned on its own, pointing straight at the rising giant. Stop it, he yelled, slamming the manual cutoff. Sparks spat from the console. The helm pulsed brighter, and for an instant, the world blurred. He wasn't in the cockpit anymore. He was inside the helm. A dark ocean of data surrounded him. Memory shards, coordinates, millions of faces flickering and vanishing. He saw flashes of old battles, dead pilots, and syndicate engineers welding helms like his onto prisoners' faces. The Ghost Fleet was never destroyed. It was stored inside the minds of the captured. Kai. Lyra's voice echoed faintly, distant but real. You're fading. He forced himself to focus, breathing hard. I'm not fading, he whispered. I'm listening. He saw one image stand out, a beacon at the heart of the moon, deep underground. The helm pulsed around it like a heartbeat. A command note. A core that controlled every helm ever made. The moment he focused on it, the voice returned, louder now. Command node detected. Host route uploaded. Kai gasped and snapped back into his body. The cockpit came into focus again. Lyra was shaking his shoulder. What happened? She asked. He looked at her, sweat running down his face. I know where they made these things, and how to shut them down. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Then, that's where they'll be guarding the hardest. Exactly, Kai said. Which means it's where we need to go. Before she could argue, the ghost fleet moved again. The giant battleship's cannons turned toward the canyon mouth, where a cluster of syndicate fighters were descending. Lyra pointed. They tracked us. The ghost fleet opened fire. Energy blasts streaked through the air, shaking the canyon walls. Syndicate ships exploded one after another in bursts of blue flame. Kai stared, stunned. It's protecting us. Or it's protecting itself, Lyra said. The helm buzzed again, and Kai felt a strange calm settle over him. The ghost fleet wasn't just a weapon. It was alive, and it recognized him as one of its own. The largest ship's reactor flared bright. For a second, its light filled the entire sky like a dawn. Then the voice spoke once more inside Kai's head. You are linked. Find a core. Free the bound. Lyra's hand found his shoulder. Kai, what did it say? He stared into the flickering lights of the wrecks, his reflection half human, half machine. It said, he whispered, that I'm not the only one wearing a helm, and some of them can still be saved. The ghost fleet drifted around them like silent sentinels, and for the first time since his capture, Kai understood the truth. He wasn't fighting against the helm anymore. He was leading an army of the dead, and they were waking up. The canyon's mouth widened into a broken valley, miles wide and carpeted with red dust. Long-dead factories lay half-buried, their smokestacks bent like old bones. Between them shimmered faint light, a hidden city, cloaked beneath holographic haze. Kai guided the skiff low, heart pounding. The ghost fleet slept behind them now, drifting like a silent grave. But the helm on his face hummed with new energy, whispering fragments of coordinates and strange voices layered over each other like echoes. Lyra watched the scanner. I'm not seeing any power signatures. Just static. That's because the helm doesn't want us to, Kai said quietly. It's hiding this place, even from itself. They crossed the shimmer and descended into the ruins. Instantly, the world changed. Towers jutted from the sand like teeth. Lights flickered weakly in windows where no one should be alive. The skiff's controls flickered between readings, now stable, now vanishing, as if the city were half real. What is this place? Lyra asked. Kai's voice was distant. The helm called it the Vault of Echoes. They landed near what once had been a plaza. Broken statues of humanoid figures lay scattered among collapsed walkways. A cold wind sighed through empty archways. The air smelled of metal and memory. As they stepped out, the helm pulsed softly, blue veins glowing beneath its dark shell. Kai winced as images bled through his vision. Scientists wiring neural frames, children hiding under tables, a countdown repeating in a dead language. Lyra steadied him. You're bleeding again. He wiped the crimson smear from his nose. It's not blood. It's data spill. The helm's leaking through me. Then we stop here before it kills you. He shook his head. No. The coordinates lead here for a reason. They moved deeper into the ruins. The streets were lined with hollow machines, half biological, half metallic, frozen mid-motion. Their bodies shimmered faintly, as though they'd been paused in time. Lyra ran a finger over one. Preservation field. This technology is older than the Syndicate. Kai looked closer. Older than us, too. The helm's voice flickered faintly through his head, childlike, soft. Memory vault. Contains hosts. Do not abandon them. He froze. There are people here. Alive, somehow. Lyra looked around, uneasy. In those things. Maybe, he said. Or beneath them. They reached a central tower. Its base a ring of black stone, its peak swallowed by shadow. The massive door stood half open, humming with faint light. As they entered, the air grew warmer, filled with low vibrations like the heartbeat of the world. The walls pulsed with pale liquid light, displaying faces that flickered in and out of existence. Humans, aliens, hybrids, all speaking silently through the glow. Kai stepped closer. They're trapped. Lyra's expression hardened. The vault didn't preserve them. It imprisoned them. He touched one of the panels. The face within, a young woman, turned toward him, mouth moving without sound. The helm translated faintly in his mind. Release, please release. Kai staggered back. They're still conscious. How long have they been like this? Lyra whispered. Hundreds of years, he said softly. Maybe longer. Every helm ever made, every mind it took, was sent here. It's where they stored us. Lyra's voice trembled with something close to anger. Your people, my people, all feeding the same machine. Kai nodded. And it's still running. He reached for the control dais at the center of the room, a tall pillar laced with silver veins. The helm flared brightly, connecting him instantly. Streams of information crashed through his mind. Maps, memories, screams. He saw the faces of thousands, men, women, soldiers, locked inside the network. Lyra pulled at his arm. Kai, disconnect. He gritted his teeth. I can't. They're showing me something. What? A core, deep underground. It's what powers the vault. And it's still collecting. The room trembled as ancient systems stirred awake. The suspended faces turned, their eyes glowing faintly. Lyra raised her weapon. They're moving. No, Kai said. They're waking up. The ground cracked open. From below, massive cables rose like serpents, glowing with green light. Each one carried countless tiny capsules, helms, traveling upward like insects returning to a hive. Lyra's breath caught. They're manufacturing new ones. The helm on Kai's face shuddered violently. A wave of static filled his head, nearly blinding him. Through the pain, a single message echoed inside his skull. Host accepted. Synchronizing command authority. Kai gasped. It's linking me to the entire network. Lyra grabbed his shoulders. Then fight it. I'm trying. His voice broke. It's not attacking, it's asking me to lead. The lights brightened. Every preserved figure turned its face toward him in unison. For one terrifying instant, 1,000 voices whispered his name. Lyra stepped back. Kai, they're following you. He looked around at the glowing chamber, heart hammering. They've been waiting for someone who could control the system without being consumed. And that's you. He gave a half-crazed smile. Guess I got lucky. The helm quieted suddenly, the glow fading to a steady pulse. The faces sank back into the walls. The vault went still. Lyra exhaled slowly. What did you do? Kai turned toward her, eyes shining faintly with code. I gave them a new command. What command? He smiled faintly, exhausted. To stop obeying. The silence that followed felt heavier than thunder. Far above, the canyon sky flickered. One by one, dormant satellites around the moon began to light up, responding to the helm's pulse. The network that once enslaved countless minds was awake again. Only this time, it wasn't serving the syndicate. Lyra watched the light spreading through the cracks in the tower. What happens now? Kai looked up at the glowing ceiling, his voice quiet but sure. Now, he said, we start a rebellion that remembers every soul it ever took. The vault trembled for hours after Kai's command. The once dead machines began to hum again, whispering fragments of languages long forgotten. Dust fell from the ceiling like ash. The glow in the walls changed, from cold blue to a warm, living amber. Lyra stood by the entrance, rifle ready, her gaze fixed on Kai. He knelt in the center of the chamber, both hands pressed to the black stone floor, the quantum helm glowing faintly on his face. For a long time, he didn't move or speak. Finally, he exhaled, eyes opening. They're free. Lyra lowered her weapon slightly. You did it. Not exactly, he said quietly. I didn't release them. I gave them choice. They can decide to stay, to leave, to sleep, or to remember. Some want peace. Others want revenge. She frowned. You're talking like they're people again. Kai looked up at her. They always were. A rumble shook the ground. The vault's walls flickered, and the helm whispered again, urgent, sharp. Warning. Command signal traced. Incoming intercepts. 5 syndicate vessels. Lyra cursed softly. They found us. Kai stood, dizzy but focused. Then we move. The helm can't hide us anymore. It's broadcasting everything we do. She slung her rifle and grabbed his arm. Then we used that to our advantage. They sprinted through the collapsing corridors. The holographic faces in the walls turned to watch them as they passed, glowing faintly in farewell. One voice brushed Kai's mind. Soft, female, familiar. Thank you for remembering us. He stumbled for a moment, overwhelmed, before Lyra pulled him onward. They reached the skiff just as the canyon sky tore open. Fire streaked through the clouds. Syndicate dropships, sleek and black, descending like predators. Lyra powered the engines. We can't outrun 5 of those. Kai gritted his teeth. We don't have to. The vault still listens to me. He closed his eyes. The helm pulsed. Beneath them, the buried machines stirred. Massive towers of metal rose from the sand, their cores glowing bright as dawn. What are you doing? Lyra shouted over the rising roar. Calling for help, Kai said. The ground split apart. From the depths, the ghost fleet emerged again. Those ancient ships they'd seen in the canyon, now fully awake. Their hulls glowed with the same golden light as the vault. One by one, their cannons turned upward. Lyra's eyes widened. They're answering you? Not me, Kai said. All of us. The first syndicate ship opened fire. Plasma lances tore across the sky. The ghost fleet fired back, and the air became a battlefield of color and thunder. Kai and Lyra took off through the storm of light. The skiff weaved between energy beams, debris, and burning wrecks. Kai's hands moved like instinct, guided by the helm's visions. Lyra manned the rear turret, firing at anything that moved. We can't keep this up, she shouted. Kai smiled tightly. We won't have to. He pulled the skiff into a steep climb, heading straight for the largest Syndicate command ship, the Vigilant Spear. Its black armor gleamed in the chaos, its cannons cutting through the ghost fleet with ruthless precision. Kai, Lyra yelled. That's suicide. Not if we finish it fast. The helm blazed bright enough to fill the cockpit. For an instant, Kai saw through the enemy ship, every power line, every reactor pulse, every heartbeat aboard. He focused on one spot, the whispering core, the neural hub that connected all Syndicate technology. The helm recognized it, almost like seeing a mirror. Lyra saw his face pale. What is it? The same tech, the same mind. The core runs on the same architecture as the helms. It's the source. Then if you touch it, I can end all of it, he finished. She grabbed his wrist. Or it ends you. He looked at her, tired but calm. I was supposed to die 4 years ago, remember? Lyra's eyes softened for a heartbeat. Don't you dare make this noble. He smiled faintly. Too late. The skiff pierced through the spear's defense field. Sparks flared against the hull. The interior of the ship loomed ahead, a vast spinal chamber filled with blue light and humming data veins. Kai locked the autopilot and stood. You'll have to fly out. Lyra caught his hand. And if you don't come back? He met her gaze. Then you finish the story. Before she could reply, he leapt from the skiff into the open chamber below. Gravity spun him as he fell, the helm blazing brighter with every second. He hit the platform hard, but landed on his knees. The whispering core pulsed before him, a column of living light and memory. He could hear the voices inside, millions of them, bound and screaming. The helm's voice echoed in his mind. Integration possible. Risk, total erasure. Kai whispered, let's roll the dice. He reached out and pressed his hand to the core. Instantly, energy flooded him. Every memory from every captive across centuries crashed through his mind. Pain, love, loss, creation, destruction. He saw cities rise and fall, species vanish, stars ignite and fade. Lyra's voice broke through the calm, panicked. Kai, the fleet, what are you doing? He barely heard her. The core began to crack. The lights in the ship flickered wildly. I'm giving them back what was stolen, he said, voice shaking. Their selves. The helm flared white-hot. Circuits burned. Syndicate ships across the sky froze mid-flight, their systems flooding with old voices waking up inside them. The entire network of the enemy began to unravel, not through destruction, but through remembrance. Lyra saw it happen from the cockpit. Every enemy ship turned its weapons aside, no longer obeying their commanders. The ghost fleet rose in formation beside them, glowing like suns. And at the center of it all, the Vigilant Spear burned with light, then imploded silently into nothing. The battlefield went still. Only the faint hum of the helm echoed through the calm. "Kai," she whispered. No response. She gripped the controls, shaking. "Kai, answer me." A moment passed. Then his voice came, faint but alive. "Still here, just needed to borrow the universe for a second." Lyra laughed through tears. "You idiot." The ghost fleet began to drift again, free from command, their lights dimming in peace. Lyra found Kai floating amid debris, unconscious but breathing. She pulled him aboard the skiff and removed what was left of the helm. It had cracked down the center, its glow fading. As she held it, she realized it wasn't cold metal anymore. It was warm, like living skin. Outside, dawn spread across the canyon, washing the wrecks in gold. Kai stirred weakly. "Is it over?" Lyra looked out at the rising light, then back at him. "No," she said softly. "You just started something much bigger." He smiled faintly, eyes closing again. "Good. I've always liked big stories." Silence fell over the moon after the battle. The sky, once filled with burning ships, now glowed faintly with drifting fragments, glimmering like slow, dying stars. The storm had ended. The ghost fleet slept again, scattered across the canyons like monuments to what had been lost and found. The skiff drifted low over the desert, its engines whispering. Inside, Kai lay strapped to the cot in the rear bay, pale and still. Lyra sat beside him, her armor cracked, hands wrapped around a mug of recycled water she didn't drink. It had been 3 days since the vigilant spear fell. 3 days since Kai had touched the whispering core and set millions of minds free. He hadn't woken since. The helm, now split into 2 dull halves, rested on the table beside her. It no longer pulsed, but sometimes, faintly, she thought she heard it breathe. "You said you'd like big stories," she murmured, voice rough. "But you never said you'd leave me to finish one alone." Outside, dust devils twisted in the dawn light. The desert was quiet, except for the faint echo of voices in the wind, whispers of freed memories still wandering, searching for home. Lyra closed her eyes. She could feel them, all the lost minds that Kai had released. They weren't gone. They were changing. Some were settling in the broken ships of the ghost fleet, rebuilding the systems into something new. Others drifted like digital ghosts, finding rest at last. And through it all, she could feel him. A sudden beeping from the cockpit snapped her eyes open. She jumped up and ran forward. The proximity sensors were flashing red. A fleet, but not the Syndicate. These ships were smaller, battered, painted with the blue and silver sigil of the Earth Coalition. Human ships, rescue cruisers, salvage vessels, and med transports, emerging from hyperspace like a promise. Lyra's heart skipped. "They found us." She tapped the comm. "This is Lyra Varen, transmitting from down Sector Delta 9. I have a survivor. Kai Mercer, Earth Coalition pilot. He's alive." Static. Then a male voice answered, cautious but kind. "Copy Delta 9. Tracking your signal. Stay put. We're coming to you." Lyra let out a shaky breath. For the first time in years, she felt something close to relief. She turned back to Kai. His breathing was shallow, but steady. She touched his hand gently. "You did it, human," she whispered. "You made them believe again." The ship rocked gently as the rescue vessels descended. Lyra looked through the viewport and froze. Something massive moved beneath the sands. At first, she thought it was a mirage, shifting shadows under the heat. Then the ground split, and a colossal structure began to rise. Black metal, silver light, the vault. The entire city beneath the dust was rising to the surface. Lyra stumbled back, eyes wide. "No, that can't be." The helm halves on the table vibrated, glowing faintly. Kai stirred. His voice was weak, slurred, but clear. "It's not done." Lyra knelt beside him, gripping his shoulder. "Kai, you're awake." He opened his eyes, still human, but with faint golden circuitry tracing the irises. "The vault heard me," he said softly. "It's rebuilding itself." Lyra glanced out the window. The city was now fully visible, massive towers glowing from within, alive again. Strange silhouettes moved along the streets, mechanical forms walking with purpose, guided by something unseen. "What did you do, Kai?" she whispered. He looked out at the rising city, voice low. "I gave them freedom, and now they're deciding what that means." A voice came over the comm, urgent. Unknown energy surge detected from surface structure. Coalition command requests immediate evacuation. Lyra switched it off. We're not leaving yet. Kai tried to sit up. Lyra. She steadied him. If that city goes rogue, the coalition will nuke this moon into dust. You said the vault was learning. If it's truly alive, we need to make sure it doesn't become what it replaced. Kai nodded weakly. Then we go inside. He struggled to stand. The helms have floated up from the table as if responding to his heartbeat. The two pieces fused together again, glowing steady, no longer black, but white gold. Lyra stepped back, tense. It's alive again. Kai's voice was calm. No, it's me. They took the skiff down toward the city. Towers that had been silent for centuries now burned bright, like lighthouses. Holographic figures appeared along the walkways, flickers of the freed souls, watching them pass. When they reached the center plaza, the ground opened to reveal a sphere of pure light, the new core of the vault. Its surface rippled like water, and voices spoke in unison. You gave us choice. Now we give you return. The light extended outward. For an instant, Kai and Lyra stood within it, suspended weightless. Lyra saw flashes of the freed minds merging into something vast but peaceful. A collective built not on control, but memory. A living archive of all that had been lost, human, alien, machine. Kai smiled faintly. They're not an army anymore. They're a conscience. Lyra whispered. What happens to us? The light faded. The city settled into calm. The vault was no longer a weapon. It had become something else, a sanctuary. Kai looked at her, eyes reflecting the golden glow. We tell the story. We make sure they remember the difference between power and purpose. Above them, coalition ships circled warily, unsure whether to fear or celebrate what they saw. Lyra turned to Kai, voice soft. And what about you? He reached up, touching the helm. The living gold now fused gently to his temple. I think, he said, I'm the bridge now. Between what we were and what we can still become. The first sunlight broke over the horizon, washing the city in pale warmth. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The world was quiet, alive again. Lyra finally smiled. Then let's build something worth remembering. Kai nodded, the faint hum of the helm blending with the rising wind. Together, far above, in orbit, the freed ghost fleet formed a perfect ring around the moon, a silent vow to protect what was reborn below. And somewhere in the vast, glowing network of the vault, a single message pulsed out across the stars. Humanity remembered. The bound are free. The moon had been silent for days. No explosions. No alarms. No screams. Only the soft hum of rebuilding. Machines whispering to themselves. Ghosts learning how to live again. Kai stood on the balcony of what had once been the vault's control tower. Now, it was a living monument, bathed in amber light. Below, the new city stretched to the horizon, breathing like something alive. Its towers pulsed with faint golden veins, the same glow that now traced his own skin. Lyra joined him, her armor replaced by scavenged cloth and synth leather. Her hair was wind-tossed, her amber eyes reflecting the sunrise. She handed him a ration cup. You look more human today, she said softly. Kai smiled faintly. That's funny. I was going to say the same to you. They stood in silence, watching the first human and alien rescue teams landing beyond the dunes. Small silhouettes moved cautiously through the light. Soldiers, engineers, scientists, all staring up at the glowing city that had once been a tomb. The coalition doesn't know what to do with it, Lyra said. Half want to study it. The other half want to destroy it before someone turns it into another weapon. Kai's gaze stayed on the horizon. They're not wrong to be afraid. The vault still holds billions of memories. If someone controlled it. You made sure no one could, Lyra interrupted. He nodded. I gave it autonomy. But I didn't make it harmless. Freedom never is. A wind rose, carrying a sound. Faint voices, layered, almost musical. The freed minds were singing. Not with words, but emotion, a low chorus that vibrated through the air and the bones of the city itself. Kai felt the helm respond. It had changed again, its golden plates shifting like living skin, fused seamlessly with his face. They're learning to speak together, he murmured. To exist without orders. Lyra tilted her head. And you can hear them? All of them, he said. But it's not noise. It's harmony. He turned to her, eyes glowing softly. When I was trapped inside the helm, I thought being free meant being alone. But maybe freedom is just being part of something that finally listens. Lyra studied him for a long time. You sound like them now. Maybe I'm becoming them, he said. Or maybe they're becoming us. Later that night, a meeting was held in the rebuilt plaza. Coalition officers, alien envoys, and a handful of ex-syndicate defectors gathered beneath the vault's shimmering lights. Tension crackled in the air. The coalition captain, a broad man with gray eyes, stood up first. You expect us to trust this living structure? He demanded. It was the enemy's greatest weapon. Now it talks, it glows, and it calls a single man its bridge. That's not peace, that's a risk. Kai stood slowly, leaning on the railing. The crowd's eyes turned to him. He could feel their fear, their awe. You're right, he said simply. It is a risk. So is waking up every day. So is deciding not to repeat our mistakes. The captain frowned. You think you can control it? Kai shook his head. No. And that's exactly why it's safe. No one can. He looked around the plaza, at Lyra, standing among the crowd, arms folded, expression unreadable. At the freed drones perched on the rooftops, glowing faintly like stars. What we built here isn't a weapon. It's a memory. The proof that everything we destroy can still choose to rebuild itself. Silence hung heavy for a moment. Then Lyra spoke, her voice cutting through the murmurs. Silence hung heavy for a moment. Then Lyra spoke, her voice cutting through the murmurs. He's right, she said. I watched this man fight a war he didn't start, against machines he didn't understand, and still find compassion in their code. The syndicate made prisons of memories. He made them into voices. You can't destroy that. You shouldn't. The plaza fell quiet again. Then the captain slowly sat down. So what do we do now? Kai's gaze lifted to the sky, where the freed ghost fleet shimmered faintly in orbit. Hundreds of ships forming a vast halo around the moon. Now, he said softly, we teach the galaxy to remember what it forgot. As dawn came again, Kai stood on the tower once more. Lyra approached, setting a hand on his shoulder. They're sending word to every system, she said. About what happened here. About you. He laughed quietly. They'll call me a myth in a month. Maybe, she said. But myths have a way of surviving longer than wars. The helm shimmered faintly as he looked out across the desert. There's more work to do. The freed networks are scattered. Pieces of the old code still drift between stars. Some still enslaved, some lost. Lyra grinned. Then we hunt ghosts now? Not hunt, he said. Guide. She smirked. Sounds like trouble. He turned to her, smiling. It always is. They walked together toward the landing pad, where a small vessel waited. Half human, half alien design, glowing with the vault's new light. The first ship of a new alliance. As they boarded, the sky erupted with a streak of light. Not fire, but energy. A beacon shot from the vault into the void, its pulse carrying one message across the stars. The bound are free. Remember us. Kai watched the beam fade into infinity. There it goes, he whispered. The first truth humanity ever shared with the universe. Lyra rested a hand on his arm. Then let's make sure it's not the last. The ship rose, leaving behind the reborn city, half machine, half miracle, and climbed toward the ring of silent ships above. The ghost fleet shifted formation, opening a path. As they broke through the last layer of atmosphere, the stars filled the view. The helm hummed softly, almost like a heartbeat. Kai smiled, eyes on the endless dark ahead. For 4 years, he said, I thought the universe wanted to take everything from me. Lyra glanced at him. And now? He looked out at the stars, voice calm and sure. Now I know it was just waiting for us to give something back. The ship leapt into light. And the stars remembered.